It's Freestyle Friday.
Coming in hot with quick shots of inspiration on a variety of topics.
Woo! It feels good to be back in our studio and recording. We've been on the road. Doesn't it feel good, babe?
It feels good. We got the mics going.
Oh, hopefully it's nice and crisp. I know the last few weeks maybe weren't like the best quality, but we're back. We're back.
Sometimes you got to do it imperfectly, right?
Yes, do it messy.
Yeah.
All right, what are we talking about today?
So I heard this recently and I was like, oh my gosh, that is so true. And let's expand upon that. No real plans, but heard someone say life is a marathon, right? We know that. Life is precious, but it's a marathon. But it's made up of a bunch of sprints. And that couldn't be more true, I think, in our life. Like, you can't wake up and sprint necessarily every day, right? But those sprints, those 90-day sprints, those 6-month sprints can put you so far ahead. And that's what life is made up of, right? Like all those times where you're going for something, where you're working towards something and you're sprinting towards something. And it's just a bunch of like sprint races that add up to a marathon.
That compounding effect, like piled together, right? I love that. All right. So, as a listener, I want you to reflect and think, when was the last time, or maybe you're currently in a sprint? Like, what was it around? What was it about? What did that feel like? What was that like for you? I think sprints can be really exhausting sometimes when you're in it, because you're just like, oh my God, when is this going to end? But when you look back at it, you're like, wow, the exponential growth that happened during that time, like that was quantum leap on quantum leap on quantum leap. And I can think of dozens of examples in my life. But I want to ask you, Wade, because you're the one that brought up this topic. When you think on sprints in your life, what is one that really sticks out to you?
Gosh, there's definitely a bunch. I think of the first thing that comes to mind is the shift for me, that first like decision and shift. Like, okay, I'm in corporate world. I'm in corporate America. I'm in my job, but I want to make a change. How do I do it? I'm not quite sure. But I've told the story in the podcast before. I basically got magnetic to this business coach or this business coaching company called Life on Fire, Nick Unsworth. I heard him on a podcast and there was something about it. There was, God, the universe, the higher power was working towards us to get magnetic to each other. And I was like, I like this guy. I want to meet him. And I was listening to it on a podcast on a plane home from a work trip. And I heard him. I'm like, I got to look this guy up. He happened to live in San Diego. Shoot, I'm in Orange County. He's only an hour away. He happened to be putting on a 3-day event that weekend. Oh my gosh, it's the last days today. I literally flew right in. I went to the event. And that day shifted the course of my life because it became, okay, I like what this guy is doing. I think he can mentor me. I'm going to hire him as a coach. Nick, teach me to do what you do. From there, when I started coaching with him, it was a sprint, basically. I was working full-time in finance. I had a vision of being an entrepreneur, of creating something, of having autonomy and freedom in my life, of having impact, of helping other people through what I thought would be a coaching business that I was going to start and launch. And it was a 6-month program with him. And he had me set 6-month goals that scared the heck out of me. And it was basically a sprint from there because I would do weekly coaching with them. And then after I was done with my finance job, I would start taking steps and working towards building a business, building up my mindset, starting to coach people, do different things. And it was like this drinking out of a fire hose. And it ultimately led to you and I, Sandy, working our now network marketing business together, which it was right in front of me the whole time. But I saw you as a business coach and a health coach. And that's what I wanted to do. And I saw, oh my gosh, we could do this together. And then from there was another sprint. There was more sprints, right? Where working full time and building something after hours, it's definitely not easy, but it definitely is worth it. And there was those sprints. So that was like the first push. Let me bounce it back to you. When you think about sprints in your life, what do you think of?
Oh my God, I think of so many. Like, you covered the career one, so I feel like I need to cover a different one. I feel like I'm in a sprint right now. So today, when we're recording this, I'm like, what's today? I have no idea. I think it's May
25th.
May 25th. we're 16 weeks pregnant, which I'm so grateful for. And I feel like I'm in a sprint right now till we bring a baby into the world. And every single day, I am so aware of it's like countdown, like until our life drastically changes in the best way ever. But we go, it's like when two become three. Like, so I'm in a sprint every day of growing my mindset, of diving into research just around like parenthood and, the type of birth they want to have. And what do we do once we have this baby? And every day I feel like not a bad pressure, but like a pressure of like, what have I done today to progress my mindset or my like build my belief or like I think we put so much attention on like the actual birth, which trust me, there's been a lot of attention around that, but lately I've been thinking like, okay, so the birth happens, right? Beautiful birth, great. Then we're sitting there with a baby and it's like, okay, like what do we do with the baby,
Mm-hmm.
so right now I feel like I'm in a spiritual personal sprint of transitioning my identity from it's always been about me and about you. And now I'm transitioning into my identity into I'm creating a life that literally is depending on me. And how do I be an intentional parent? And how do I um, set a strong foundation and basis for this child to come in and feel so welcomed and wanted? That's kind of the sprint I'm in right now.
I love that. I think we're definitely in it together. And it goes to show there's a lot of different sprints, right? There's a lot of different races in life. It's not all career, it's not all family, it's not all health, it's not all exercise or whatever. It's like a bunch of these different sprints. And what you realize is like when you put your head down and focus on something, Tony Robbins always says, where focus goes, energy flows. Where your focus is and it's going, that's where you're going to see energy in your life. And so think about where your sprints are. What are you sprinting towards? We're sprinting towards welcoming our firstborn into the world. It's amazing. I covered the career side of it, sprinting, in our business. There were definitely two I can think of distinct sprints. I mean, in reaching different levels in our business. And they were really, what we realized is they were 90-day cycles. Business comes in 90-day cycles. Life comes in 90-day cycles. Seasons are 90 days. Speaking of, it's actually a great transition into the 90-day habits journal, right? That was created by network marketers for network marketers. Oftentimes, okay, we start a business. We're excited about it. We know why we're doing it. We know where we want to go. But okay, what's the game plan? What's the blueprint? What do we do? That's why the 90-day habits journal was created, to give people a daily blueprint and accountability partner to just work day in, day out towards what they want to build and why they want to do it. So we'll drop that in the show notes, but check out the 90-day habits journal. Use Getting Magnetic 15 for 15% off. But back to life is a bunch of sprints. I mean, I'm training for this Ironman right now. I think I have like 60 days until I'm doing it. It's a sprint towards that. There's all these sprints. And when you come up for air, when you realize you've climbed that mountain, you've hit that peak, you take a breath, right? We oftentimes say in our business, a breath, not a break, but you look back and our life is just a culmination of these sprints, and where you are today is a culmination of those short races you've been running. So it's definitely important to come and take the 10,000 foot view and look down on your life and appreciate it and understand where you're going, where you want to go, and know that it's going to be a culmination of those short sprints. I mean, I feel like I hear people say in the business world or in life in general, 6 months or 90 days of intense focus can put you 5 years ahead. Most people aren't willing to do it. Most people aren't willing to commit to anything for 90 days or for 6 months of just putting their head down and going towards it. But those that do see the fruits, and we don't always see the fruits 90 days later, but we're planting all those seeds.
So true. I think our life right now, like where you are right now, is a physical manifestation of your thoughts. Like literally where you are is because of the thoughts that you had. It's because of the sprints that you have or have not had. And the cool thing is, like maybe you've never had a sprint, or maybe you haven't had a sprint in a while. you get to decide like, all right, I'm starting today. And maybe it's regarding like organizing your house or going more minimalistic. We just watched a documentary called The Minimalist. I think that's what it was called.
Mm-hmm.
Very inspiring to kind of just like minimize things, right? Declutter your life, like have less going on. Maybe it's around your career. Maybe it's around your finances. Maybe it's around investing in things. Maybe it's around healing certain relationships. Maybe it's around your health and wellness or a fitness journey or a goal like Wade has of, doing an Ironman or whatever it might be. Like you can start that sprint today. You can literally sit down and write out some goals of tangible things that you want to achieve. Like what's little things you can do every day? What's the next yes? What's the next little thing to get you, going towards whatever that goal is? Because the truth is, we think about things that we want so often, but thinking is so different than doing. Like it's so different.
Mm.
And so it's like, stop thinking about it and start freaking doing it. Right. I've been so guilty of overthinking. And it'll be like, you guys have heard us share this, but even with Getting Magnetic, we wanted to have a podcast for like years. And it was like, oh my God, like how would we edit it? Like, how would we, I'm like, we don't have time for that. Like it was just all these different things. And it was just like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, let's just do it. And if you've been following along for a while, like we are not perfect. And sometimes the sound quality is not perfect. And we recently had an episode that actually didn't record at all. And we have to ask the guests to re-record with us. And we've dropped some F-bombs. And there's been some things that like have not been super professional and perfect, but we're still doing it. Right. And so reflect on where you're at and what you want to achieve. And how can you start just doing? Just starting that next sprint. And then when you compile that together, you will be amazed at what you've accomplished, like by the end of your sprint. And maybe your sprint is like, I don't know. I feel like a sprint doesn't have to be a certain amount of time. Like a sprint could be like, I don't know, a few solid weeks of like doing something very intentionally every single day, like starting to change those habits.
Yeah,
right?
For sure. Like this week, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. and I'm going to exercise every day. Or maybe I'm going to do that for 21 days. Yeah, it's totally not around a time
or
frame.
like, if you haven't listened to our sex episode, our sex challenge, that was 7 days of sex every single day. That's, you could do a sex
That was a sprint. That was like a sex sprint.
I bet your partner would love a 7-day sex sprint.
Yep. So in wrapping up, think about what sprint are you in right now? Stay committed to it. Or if not, what's your next sprint? Maybe be like, gosh, I'm walking right now. Okay. I'm walking along the marathon path. Let me put the next sprint into my life.
Pick up the pace. I love it.
All right. That's a wrap. Only those that can see the invisible can do the impossible.
So remember, you are magnetic.